G'day, folks. It's the coach here, and welcome to the Aether Quart smashing. No, what do you do when you eat Aether Quart? I was thinking like I'm going to smash my Aether Quarts like we do when we go to the gym, like we have our pre-workout and we just smash it. It is. Are you okay? Yes, line it up, rack up that Aether Quartz and smash it to get those additional casts. It is the coach here, and we are talking Lumineth Realm-Lords. I hope YouTube doesn't ban me already, thinking I'm doing mad drug talk. It is Are You Okay Day, so I want to make sure that I ask everybody, are they okay? It's an important day to ask your friends and your mates, are they okay? And are they really doing okay? And, to reach out, whether it's to a professional or to a friend, if you are not feeling okay. We are talking Lumineth. I am okay. Lumineth is one of those fun armies that I enjoy talking about because it gives me a headache just talking about lists. Like when I look at the optimization and the builds and the options, there is so much in Lumineth. And I brought back by popular demand the Aelf Bro himself, Hayden. G'day, Hayden. Welcome back.
Hey, matey.
Oh my God.
Dude. I'm still waking up, brother.
Mate, you set the time. It's like silly o'clock in the morning in Australia, and we're talking Lumineth. How you been?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Living life in sunny Queensland, not in lockdown, unlike yourself.
That's right. I'm doing a hard time learning how to make prison wine. But we are talking Lumineth, and I guess, like when I look at Lumineth, and I'd love your observations on how you're finding it in 3E. They feel pretty much unchanged. Like when I looked at some of the tournament results and some of the lists that have been doing really well, whether it is, high performers like Joe Cryer or Jack Armstrong, or even just average Joe, the Lumineth hasn't really seen a negative impact to 3E, whether it is because of the second battle tome, whether it's because of the depth of the roster, whether it's just because what was working in 2E kind of still works in 3E. But what's your take so far on Lumineth in the early edition of third?
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there, man. A lot of the Lumineth stuff the good stuff really hasn't taken too much of a hit. The big takeaway from the army is that you've lost about a third. Whatever you had in your list, you've lost about a third of it. So the point costs really hit Lumineth hard in terms of the point increases. But as we can still look at these results that are coming in from around the world, they're still doing really, really well. Unsurprisingly, they're still a really good army, and they have a lot of tools to deal with the things that are coming out of third edition already. So
yeah, they've got all the tools, whether it is, to take advantage of the new command points or the command point structure, but also the command abilities.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about some of the stuff like, because there's been a lot of changes. You've had coherency, table sizes, battle tactics, grand strategies, reinforcements. I wonder though, I probably imagine reinforcements is one of those negatives, I guess, because there were times where you would see those nasty builds of having up to, a massive horde of archers if you didn't go Teclis.
It's actually worse because you could only reinforce Sentinels, who, let's be honest, they are the problem unit within Lumineth, the big bad unit within. They used to only be units of 20. You can now go to units of 30 because they can be battle line and reinforced twice. And now that you've only
got 4 points though. I suppose that's still enough to double.
You're only really reinforcing one unit. Yeah.
You did see builds in the UK for a little bit where you'd get up to 80 archers, like 60 to 80 archers.
Yeah, but a lot of the ones that we've seen now is like one unit of 30. And then you combine that with Unleash Hell, and suddenly you've got 30 archers that are doing mortal wounds on fires when they shoot you when you charge them. Or there's lots of little things within the new edition to make use of Unleash Hell. So
yeah. But overall, your thoughts so far is that Lumineth have just come off pretty well. We've already seen them doing well at tournaments, which is probably a surprise to nobody.
Yeah, there's still the Scalpel army. So they're not like your Gargants or I guess your big armies that come through and just smash off their entire army off the table. The way that third edition is, and we're very hero heavy again, they are the scalpel that go, okay, well, let's kill off these 2 5-wound heroes, and suddenly they can't utilize, a lot of the battle tactics or command abilities or something like that make it a lot better for that army to function. So, and shoot the heroes, armies usually fall apart still. That hasn't changed.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned shooting the heroes. Like, obviously, one that's a meme, shoot the heroes. It's obviously the Lumineth, one of the Lumineth builds, which is all about, shooting the heroes. You mentioned Hero Hammer, and I'm seeing a lot of armies, and I've mentioned this in previous shows. If you're new to the, this channel, you might not have heard me say it, but you are seeing a lot of competitive lists right now putting a lot of points in their heroes. It could be up to 50% of their list or more. And often those lists are building them into really strong, supercharged heroes. They're going into the Eltharians, the Teclises, the Marathis, the Gotreks, the Archaons. They go in the Gashes, they're going into these superheroes. How are you finding Lumineth right now in that Hero Hammer meta? Because you've only got Teclis, and Teclis isn't that combat beat stick that majority of them are.
We've got Eltharian. Come on now.
I'm talking like these superheroes. I'm talking the superheroes. Yeah,
exactly. Here's a superhero. I actually really rate Eltharian now. Like, seriously.
He's like a mini Gotrek.
Yeah, he's a mini Gotrek. It's fantastic. And the fact that he can heal himself and he still halves damage, it's great. I love it. But Sire is still the great counter to the Godhammer meta of my general is 6 inches back from the front line, and I can just go, cool, Archaon charges in, Archaon can't fight. Marathi charges in, Marathi can't fight. So it still stops all of that. But yes, Eltharian is king. He is good quality.
You've got a lot of fans here, Eltharian, because
my people.
Well, it's interesting because when Eltharian came out in that first box, right, it was a gorgeous sculpt. When I saw that, and some of the, it just shows you how far Games Workshop had gone from a modeling perspective. But I think I'd only seen it on the table, against myself, probably once. It seemed like that model that everyone really wanted to, but they'd rather just put in Warden Sentinels, Cathalar, Endless Spells, Teclis. It was that first model that had to be dropped because they wanted something else.
Exactly, yeah. So it's one of those things where you look at it and go, you could put in other things that do a job better. He was a little bit too pricey back then. I think he's very well pointed at 250 points now, considering he has all this extra ability to use these new, I guess, command abilities and all that kind of jazz now. So it's very good.
But overall, you're feeling good about Lumineth. They've got some tools, and we'll kind of unpack this a little bit, because I think for me, I really want to know from you, what are some of the things that you're really excited about with Lumineth? How are you taking advantage of some of these things, right? You've got Coherency. And the first thing I thought about with Coherency is the impacts to what you used to run, which was a lot of Dawn Riders. You loved your Dawn Rider list, and you would run multiple units, or at least a big unit of Dawn Riders. But now the base Coherency and the way that you've got to kind of rejig it is a bit of a disincentive, I've felt.
Yeah, I was crying in the corner a little bit. I'm not going to lie. You take them in units of 5. You look at third ed, and you're not taking lots of big units anymore because of that. In terms of your, I guess, combat-heavy units, whereas you are still seeing it with your shooting units. But units of 5 Dawn Riders are still very good. And the fact that you have the Strike Like Lightning, whatever the ability is called, the pick 2 units to fight when you activate. Units of 5
Lightning Reflex. Lightning Reflex.
Yep. It's close. It's close.
That's right. I got the page right in front of me. I had to make sure.
The strike 2 units striking every time you activate, it really makes the, I guess, MSU style work a lot better. It's not as good as, say, not Mighty Destroyers, Smashing and Bashing, but at the same time, taking 2 automatic activations every time you activate is very good still. So
yeah, it's great to be able to do more damage, to be able to reduce threats, just hit before your guys, because you don't have the greatest durability, and that's not what elves have ever been about. But Autumn brought up an interesting comment, and it reminded me the last time that we talked, you were talking about a build where you had I can't remember the exact endless spell.
Sanctum.
The Sanctum.
Yeah.
How have you found and Autumn's thinking that the Lumineth endless spells now are worthless? I don't know if I'd go that far.
I wouldn't go worthless. I think the only one that really took a massive hit was the Twin Stones, and it was deservedly they took a hit because they were bonkers. And they
were good.
Yeah, it's like cogs. There were things that were stupidly underpriced, and good. Sorry, Corey, but it needed to happen. Cogs were stupid for 45 points. Absolutely stupid. The change to that in the recent FAQ, where only one wizard can use the cogs now, is still very good for 45 points to get a free, what is essentially a free artifact every turn. Or you can still go, I'm going to give my entire army within 18 inches +1 to charge, to make those 9-inch charge into an 8-inch charge. And say you've got something that has +1 to charge already, you've now got a 7-inch charge.
And that would help. And that would help with things like redeploy as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, the fact that I can only use 1 command point to reroll the charge. So 45 points for cogs. I mean, old cogs, like early third cogs for Lumineth and Tzeentch, and there's a few armies, it was just way too much value in one endless spell.
Yeah, that's it. So the changes that we've seen to the endless spells have been great. That they're not as, I guess, uniformly in every list anymore, which is a good thing. So,
what about so I know one endless spell that was always in the lists that I would play against, and it was in combo with the Cathalar, is the spell portal. Has that changed much for you, or the way you're looking at the Cathalar endless spell combo?
So I've got a lot of lists that have that kind of endless spell with the spell portal. Works great with Teclis still. Like, the changes of it being one spell goes through the spell portal doesn't really change for Lumineth. Like, you put Teclis' spell through, you put Solar Flare through, which is something that I learned at the last event. I was really looking at Solar Flare going, it's all right. And then it happened to me. And I'm like, oh God, this spell is fantastic. Why have I been overlooking this thing? The -2 to cast through a spell portal is just absolutely bonkers. Because you put it through the spell portal. Through the spell portal, you pick a point 10 inches from the spell portal. So you've got essentially a 28-inch threat range to pick your point. From there, it's within 12 inches of that point is -2 to cast for wizards. So if you're coming up against an enemy Lumineth army, you're coming up against Seraphon, Nagash. Nagash suddenly doesn't have +3. It's very good. If you don't have someone like Teclis who can't be modified, it's very, very good.
I think it kind of shows you that they are a scalpel army, and there are some builds where you can be really alpha aggressive, but the tools that Lumineth really bring to the table is being able to unpick, and you can really unravel. That's probably what comes to my mind, like grabbing one thread of yarn from a shirt and you just pull it, and then the whole kind of just unravels over time. And there are different builds, right? I've seen, and I've mentioned Joe Cryer in the past around the Fox build, and there's that really oppressive kind of Fox build that is out there and just pinning people in the deployment zones. You've still got the Jack Armstrong build that's been running around. I mean, it's not the Jack Armstrong build, but Jack has done really, really well with it.
Yeah, it's the Sire Warden Sentinel build that has been around since the book dropped. Like it's been the list. It's just
I only call it the Jack one because he's done really well at one of the most recent tournaments, and probably someone of notoriety who's also done really well. So it's still working in 3E.
Yeah. So there's still those lists running around. The Fox build's really good. I personally am not a big fan of those kind of lists, just because I like actually engaging with my opponent and not just having them sit there on their phone and hating life. But the Fox build's really good in terms of, like we were saying before, where Lumineth is the scalpel army. And if you have 4 Foxes that do Ren 2 for D3 with a lot of shots, with lots of movement, you're not killing you're not doing a lot of wounds. You're not bringing down a Mega Gargant every turn with that list. But you're bringing down your, I guess, 5 to 8 wound heroes that are keeping key things alive or giving out key abilities. You're taking down Cauldrons. You're taking down, in Daughters of Cain, you're taking down Hags. You're taking down Eidolons. You're taking down Turtles. Like you're killing one thing at a time, but you're really making sure you kill that thing.
Yeah, and you're also able to use your high movement to be able to get into their deployment zone, which is like I was talking to one of the opponents that played against the Joe list at Summer Slaughter, and he was saying that his I think it was his Gargants were ultimately pinned in the deployment zone, and there wasn't a lot of shooting, and you need a lot of shooting to be able to handle the Fox. Yeah. Otherwise, the high movement. By the way, for anyone who doesn't know what that list is very basic. Obviously, you got 30 of your Sentinels, your basic battle line and stuff, but then you've got 3 of the Wind Spirits plus Severeth. So you're using 4 Foxes, and I've even seen lists where it's been 5 Foxes just running around, just it's madness.
Yeah. Best way to beat 5 Foxes is use Chrome.
Fair enough. People are talking a lot about the Great Nations. I was going to call you temples, but you're not temples. You're Great Nations. Where do you think all of the Great Nations stand? Do you think that the ones that were popular last year are still the right ones? Is there any that are kind of fallen out of favor, or do you think there's some that have even become favorable?
I think there's a couple that are really, really good. Big shout out to the Illuminati in the chat. Love it, my people. So I'm a big fan of Illumina, both from a lore standpoint and from their abilities. I think the big winners out of this, I guess, change to third ed is Illithar. I think is the biggest winner, because Illithar's whole thing is it's all about twins. So what they can do is they go, say you have 2 units of Venari, so like 2 units of Sentinels. You can pick one to use a command ability in terms of, say, Unleash Hell, as long as they're within 3 inches of another Venari unit, so another unit of Sentinels. Both units of Sentinels can use Unleash Hell in that phase for 1 command point. So you get shot by 2 units of Sentinels.
Look, if you're throwing down, look, I know the Sentinels, like my eye twitched, right? Because, Sentinels are one of the units right now, and it has been for a while. People don't like Sentinels, and I think part of the reason is that they're just so uninteractive. Like you shoot me from 30 inches out. You ignore line of sight. You're fishing for mortal wounds, and I just sit there and I go, "Cool story, bro," and not a lot of people have the tools to be able to handle that effectively. And if you want to take down that 5 wound or 6 wound hero that could be critical to my strategy, you can shoot it off in turn 1 with enough shots, especially when you bring that 6s down to 5s. So I can appreciate why people don't like them, but they are a tool, and they're one of the tools that you have to be able to deal mortal wounds. Because so I don't blame you to use them.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. It all comes down to intent, right? If you're there to win a tournament, bring them, because they'll help you do well. They won't make you do well, but they will help you do well. every unit is just a tool. It just depends on your intention of how you want to play the game and where the way you want to play the game. So
maybe leave them at home, or maybe not take as many
leave
of
them
them
at home for a couch.
Yeah, if you're casual games club, maybe bring units of 10 or something, because Lumineth, especially like when I look at Twitter and I look at some of the groups that all of us will all kind of converge, it seems to draw the most amount of emotion out of people that they have a NPE experience, that enjoy
Teclis,
playing
Vultures,
Lumineth.
Sentinels.
Well, I mean, you got the Law Seeker as well, and there's a whole
Law
bunch
Seeker
of.
isn't as bad as what people are saying or what people originally thought. When you could take 3 of them, then that was the big problem, is that they got rid of the unique, then it was a problem. The fact that they're now unique again, they're not a problem. They die super quick. Like if you know what you're doing, they die real quick. So they're not. Law Seekers aren't really a problem. So
let me ask you a couple of quick questions, right? Let's call these the rapid fire questions.
Yep.
Teclis. Last year, Teclis was it was a 50-50 split. Some people said Teclis was an auto-include. Some people said Teclis was a trap. He's a lot of points.
Both.
He's a big wizard.
Still both.
Where do you stand? Yeah, where do you stand on Teclis, and why?
So Teclis is still both. I still think he's a trap, but I also see the value in Teclis, especially now with miscasts around. You don't have to roll dice for him. He's great for the utility, like we were talking about before. With a lot of tournaments going now, you have to put your spells for those characters on the list. Teclis goes, cool, screw you guys, I know everything. I know 3 spell laws, I know my 2 War Scroll spells, and I give my entire army +1 to cast. He's very good. He's 740 points, and especially with the way that we can currently stack saves, he is very hard to kill, because you can go all-out defense, you can go Mystic Shield, you can go Aether Quartz for +3 to save. So Alpha Strike and KO armies aren't as much of a problem anymore. And then he just heals up. I've got a list with him in Helon, where he gets he gets all his pluses to save, but he's also an Alpha Strike unit in that list, where he goes forward with Speed of Hishon, drops out the Rune of Petrifaction, drops out his nuke, charges, and then because he's got Speed of Hish, uses the command ability to retreat at the end of the phase at double his movement.
Does he have a ward bubble? Was there a spell that allowed you to get
it's one of his signature spells. There's Protection of Teclis, which is you can't have Protection of Teclis and Protection of Hish on at the same time. So you can't have 2 ward save bubbles, excuse me. So it's 18 inches from Teclis.
Right.
So he can go in, and then because he's got Speed of Hish on him, he can just retreat 24 inches at the end of the combat phase, because Helon is a good thing, apparently, as well.
Yeah, I think, would you just grab Teclis and just drop it into any generic list? Well, I mean, you could if he's a favorite model. If it's your favorite model and you just want to run it for lols, sure, why not? But I think Hades made a really good comment here. Is if you're going down a very heavy magic, you're taking endless spells, you're taking the Cathalar, you're taking a whole bunch, like you're focusing your Aether Quartz.
It's hard, because if you're taking a very magic-heavy list, you want him in there for the bonuses, but you also don't want him in there because you want to focus on being able to spread the board. Because, like we were saying before, he's 740 points, and most things in Lumineth went up by 20 to 30 points. You're losing a lot of your list. So suddenly here's a big model for 740 points that's taking up a lot of your list. If you don't have enough bodies and you've got something in Teclis who is fairly squishy still. In terms of Godhammer, still fairly squishy. In terms of Lumineth, he's a lot more tanky now. But he can still die really, really quickly and easily. You can just heal him back up easier now.
Any endless spells? I know we kind of talked about some of the spells changes, but are there endless spells that you would like in a Teclis focus build? Because I know you've got one in the list we're going to talk about later in the show.
Rune of Petrifaction. Petrification, sorry, not Petrifaction, is very good for throwing it out because it's like a Lumineth version of the Warp Lightning Vortex. It's 70 points, 6 inches from the base, start of the combat phase on a 4-up, D3 mortal wounds, -1 to runs and charges around it, and it's also you roll again at the end of the movement phase. So then it's potentially 2 lots of D3 mortal wounds on a 4-up in the movement phase to stuff. So
and talking about Teclis as well, I think that's probably one of the challenges that Paul's kind of mentioned was that Sentinels all went up 10 points.
Yes,
a pop, and then your Wardens went up 25 points. So it was a weird.
Yeah,
everyone in World expected the other way around.
This is a big argument that I've had in terms of the points changes and how I was a little bit disgusted by it because because Wardens make other things battle line, right? That's why they went up in points so much. They're a wizard. Wizards are good still. The fact that wizards are such a big part of third ed is a big thing. But the issue is that they accounted for the points cost of Sentinels within Wardens. So people who didn't take Sentinels like myself got hit. So I can't run my Dawn Rider build anymore because not only did the Wardens go up, that made the Dawn Riders battle line. The Dawn Riders went up. And these two units weren't as bad as what Sentinels were. So Sentinels should have been, 160, 170 points for a unit of 10 minimum. Whereas you look at Wardens going up to 130, 140, that's perfectly fine. Or even 130, 135, should I say. So, because they were 120 before. So a 10 to 15 point increase, perfectly fine, keeps in line with the rest of the army. The fact they went up like that is just absolutely bonkers because it then goes on the rest of the army.
There's a flow-on effect.
It's a flow-on effect, yeah.
And you're right. Like when I saw the changes, like I can honestly say, because I'm on all the social medias. I'm seeing, Facebook comments. I'm seeing Twitter comments. I've got my own Discord. Like I'm looking at everything, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone complain about Wardens. Like I don't think people like. I mean, in a scale of grand things,
exactly.
they're not that high. So you're right. I think they kind of copped it a little bit.
Yeah, so like you look at it and go, Wardens are great in combat. They got a lot of attacks. They do mortal wounds still. They still have all the tools, but they melt like paper. They got a 4-up save. They have 1 wound each, and they are the worst models to play with because they're spear snap all the time.
You should get a discount in points because you're spear snap. I did say this was going to be like rapid fire questions, and like there was complete opposite of what happened. So talk Teclis or no Teclis. Is it the time for the B4 of secrets, whether it's named or unnamed? We're in Gur. So you're getting additional victory points for monsters. Monster meta. You got the monstrous rampages. B4 of secrets.
So I like the old Red Bull, as I'm calling it.
Yep.
That gives you wings. I think he's great. This is not a Velinor. I think a Velinor is not so great anymore in terms of he's only Rend 1. That's his problem. So because of all the save stacking, 5 damage is great, but you've got to be able to get through it. He's now no longer the I can kill everything because I've got a lot of attacks at damage 5. You can just go sick. I'm going to have my big cow, who's not Eumetrica keyworded, and uses a lot of stuff. So,
and the non-hero one is just a behemoth, so it means you could put them into Alpha Beast Pack or one of the other battalions that could just be a monster artillery slot.
Correct. Yeah, and he's cheaper.
Yeah, obviously, and cheaper as well.
Yeah.
But just give you could, for example, take 2 of those non-heroed battle cows.
Potentially, yeah.
And you could put 2 of them in, right? Get the Alpha Beast Pack, and then you could get it a free 6 or free D6 inches before the game starts. So if you want to go really aggressive on Alpha,
with the Lumina, was it?
No, the non-hero.
Oh, the D6. Yeah. But you need to take the 2 though. So
that's what I'm saying. Like if you took 2, like I'm saying, if you took 2, you could go down that route.
You could, yeah. But then you're, like we were saying, the amount of points that you're sinking into that versus how many models you're getting is not fantastic.
So. I have seen people like what's mentioning in the chat, people looking at other monsters outside, whether it is the Leviathan from Deepkin, the shark lost its monster keyword, unfortunately. It was one of the allies that I was looking into, but it did change. But
Leviathans are real good. They are real good. I really underestimated them. I came up against someone running 3 the other day, and I was just like, hot damn. They barely bracket. They got a lot of damage, and they're really tanky.
And they got that bite as well, that mortal wound bite.
Yeah. One thing that I do want to bring up in terms of allies as well, before I forget, is that Soul Scryers are something that I'm looking at allying in, specifically for Curse. Because Curse with Blade Lords seems absolutely funky.
If anyone who's been watching my show, I have a love and hate relationship with Curse right now, because you've got to be within 9 inches of what you want to curse, and all the teleport shenanigans put you outside of 9. Yeah. So you need to find a way that you either play for the double turn and you set yourself up to then curse later. Yeah. You're durable enough to accept the loss if you lose the priority roll and you curse later. Or you need some other way to get in front, whether it's a pre-game move, whether it's a hero phase move, or something that can curse. I don't know. That's my love-hate relationship. I love the idea. I haven't found how I can execute it yet.
Yeah. So a lot of the things with especially this style of list that I've built a lot of the time, it's a counterpunch list. So you have your guy sitting behind, and then you just throw it out at them over the top. So you've got your Stone Guard, and then you've got your Blade Lords behind your Stone Guard, and you throw Curse out over the top. So,
how have you found the monster meta, by the way? Because we are either giving away a CP a victory point when you lose a monster, and you don't have a lot of monsters. And obviously, you have really good spell casting, so Metamorphosis works really well. Hey, Bucky, you've got Metamorphosis that works really well. You don't have a lot of monsters outside of that.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the Cow and we've got Teclis. They are our monsters. So Lumineth don't play for the monster meta. We play for the hero meta of just shoot the heroes. Control. To put it in terms of, say, Magic the Gathering, they're a control list. They're a blue style army, where it's all about control more so than running over the top.
And I guess the great thing as well is you're not giving away those victory points when you lose a monster. So initially I thought I had to get monsters. Like I know when I had that General's Handbook for the first time, I'm like, I need monsters. And I'm looking at Hydras in Cities of Sigmar. That's how I found that, the sharks aren't monsters anymore because of Broken Realms updated the War Scroll. And I'm looking for all the monsters. And as I've kind of played and I've kind of been, seeing how the game works, yes, there are some battle tactics that give you free victory points if a monster is involved, but some of them are quite hard. Having 3 monsters involved with the run, well, not a lot of armies have 3 monsters, and then you're giving away it when they die. So if you go cheap monsters, and I know Chaos has more cheap monsters than we do, but you give away them. So it's like, what's the trade-off, and is it even worth it? And I think the answer is having 1 monster is great. Having more than 1 monster, if you hit and miss.
Yeah, and like you can be the counter monster meta with Lumineth. That's a big thing as well, is that you can go and put Stone Guard in Hunters of the Heartlands, and suddenly you've got these units that are very hard to kill, that aren't affected by Stomp, aren't affected by Roar, and you have the ability to just hold up monsters with these characters or these units.
So I know you've had a few other kind of characters you've been playing around with, whether it was the Law Seeker, and you talked a little bit about the changes where it's no longer unique. So it is unique now. Sorry, it's gone from being unique to not unique to back to unique. But then you've also got. I know you were playing with the twins. Was it the
I tried the twins. I just wanted to try and make them work because my version of the twins that I've made is the old school metal Tyrion and Teclis models. So I've just made that as my conversion for my army, so I really want to make it work. But for 285 points, they don't kind of bring enough to the army that can't be filled by 2 characters for less points that can then spread across the board. So, but
I was looking at them. They're expensive.
They are. For 285 points, they are expensive. But at the same time, they have a +1 to cast on them at all times. They are 3-up save base, so they can go to a 2-up save. They've got a War Scroll 5+ Shrug as a spell. If you're near your general on a 4-up, they give a CP. You get an extra CP. Like they have their uses. The only issue is that they're not really strong until at least turn 3.
Yeah.
Like when that sword is suddenly damage 3, and then once they get in combat, then they can suddenly teleport away, and you're like, oh god. And they have to finish 9 away, they have to finish 12 away. And if they can't land, they're just gone. Like it's, yeah. So
I found with one of the changes as well in the game is there's while the border's shrunk slightly, and there's less space to play on. The way people are constructing their armies are different, and there's not as many hordes as you used to. Obviously, you're going to play against zombie or skeleton hordes with grave lords. You're still going to see grots and skaven running, battle lines in hordes. But for most parts, yeah. But for most parts, you're not seeing a lot of hordes, which means you aren't seeing a lot of people taking, up a lot of board space. I actually feel there's more board space. Maybe it's because people are putting in so many points into those monster heroes.
Yeah, exactly. But then you've got armies like your KO, like your, I guess, especially your Death and your Soulblight Gravelords now. They don't have to have a lot of units, but they can have units in all over the board, which then are suddenly it's 24 inches between them to go, okay, well, they can't land here. 24 inches between these 2 units, they can't land here. And it's like, oh, God, there's not much board space where they can actually land. Because 24 inches on a smaller table is a big bubble.
Yeah,
like it.
I learned that the hard way with, and that's probably one thing I've learned as well is the aura bubbles are quite. They're a lot more generous now. Like if you have the Khorne Demon Prince, for example, and it's a debuff, right? It makes you halve movements and charge.
Yeah.
When it's in the middle of the board with an 18-inch bubble all around it, that takes up probably half of the board, and it's very hard to get outside of that bubble. And I think that's probably one thing I found is if you've got a command point that affects, 12 inches or 18 inches, in the past, because your force was spread out so much, you didn't feel like you had as much value from those bubbles. But now you're compressed. Now there are less objectives. Your forces aren't being spread out. You're seeing more people build Death Stars and, really bundling a lot of their force into one little pocket and then kind of move up and then spread.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot more value from auras and bubbles and those 18-inch, 24-inch kind of threat ranges.
And in terms of looking at those big bubbles for command abilities, the Law of the Wind with Howling Gale is almost a must-take.
Why?
So it is a spell, goes off, I think it's on like a 6 or something. It's it's a medium to low casting for considering the rest of the army, what they normally need to cast. It's quite low. And the bonus that you get, it turns off command abilities, and it turns off a unit's ability to use or receive command abilities. So you throw it on Catacross, and suddenly Catacross's bubble turns off. You throw it on, all these heroes that are like, cool, I give this massive bubble. Sweet. No, you don't. Hello, Khorne Demon Prince. Your bubble doesn't mean nothing because I just turned it off.
Casting value of 7, by the way. Howling Gaze.
Yeah. So like
Howling Gale.
Howling Gale, yeah. But with Lumineth, it's just like 7 is low in terms of what you're casting. Like it's quite easy to get a 7 with the rerolls, the bonuses,
anything from your battle tactics, have you noticed from a battle tactic or even a grand strategy that you're finding are more favorable for you? I mean, because like the first thing I think about is like Ferocious Advance, where everyone in first turn tries to do the run for three characters or 3 units.
Yeah.
Now that obviously will break your what's your little combo, like they kind of stick together and the Shining Company stuff. When if you run those units, you break it. How have you found battle tactics with Lumineth?
Pretty good so far. Just literally looking at stuff like, or aggressive expansion is a really good one. Conquer is a really good one, especially with Illumina. There's been a few really good ones. The ones that we generally find harder are like Bring It Down and stuff like that, where you have to kill monsters because the killing power with Lumineth isn't as strong. So just give me 2 seconds, brother. I just got to quickly put the dog in the room. We just found a lost dog.
That's all right. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up. I'll bring up Hayden's list, and I'll give you a bit of a sneak peek of what's about to come. So, what Hayden's list is going to bring up, and by the way, I'll just mute Hayden quickly. What you're noticing is this is a little bit. One of the reasons why I love bringing Hayden on the show is Hayden likes to look at alternate builds. So if I wanted to go down the traditional build of going, your Sentinels and your Wardens, and get the Umbral Spell Portal, get Teclis, get your Lore Seeker in, that build's been done, and you can definitely kind of pick that up. At the same token, you've had Fox builds and you have generic builds, but Hayden, I know, is a big fan of. Is it? I think I always pronounce this. I teased him and called him Aluminium, but Alumnia, I think it is. But we can see here we've got the Stone Mage, we've got a Wind Mage, we've got the Caligrave. You've got 2 Caligraves, and I'll be curious to know why. I'll unmute Hayden now. He doesn't know he's muted. You got 2 Caligraves. You've got a Lore Seeker. You've wrapped this all up with the Battle Regiment and a Warlord. So you've reduced your drops, but also got yourself the extra artifact. You've got 3 units of Blade Lords. That's an interesting one, and I will find out why you've gone Blade Lords. It's not a popular choice. You've got some battle cattle, but specifically the small moves. You've got 2 units of Stone Guard, which I know early on people talked about, but rarely did people actually put those Stone Guard in. So I'll be curious to know why you've gone back to the old school. You got your Dawn Riders as well, and then you finished off with a Spirit of the Mountain and Cogs.
Yeah. So I call this list the Red Bull, because you have a cow that can double move, run and charge, and fly. So,
how for the folks playing at home who are like, how are you doing this?
Illumina, their command ability is run and charge. They're obviously got levitate in there, so you've got fly. Then you've got
levitate is the universal spell, so that is coming that's coming out of the core book, not out of the Lumineth book.
Yeah, and then you've got Speed of Hish for doubling move characteristic. So you've got a cow that can move 12 base with a 6-inch run. So it's moving 18 and then charging. If you want to alpha strike with a cow. Or it can
why would you do that? Like talk to me about why you'd want to make a super fast flying.
Because that's the one thing that Spirit of the Mountains lack is speed. They are great until they get stuck. So the ability to make them jump out from behind your lines so you can protect them. And then when this stuff gets a bit close, you can go suddenly, okay, they can go wherever they want and pick out the unit that they need to kill.
So it's not a turn 1 type of alpha strike, buff it up and then just run at your face, but it's the ability to get where you need it to be during the game.
Yeah. With it being Illumina, you get 3 Venari or Scanari units that get a pre-game move. So I like Blade Lords because pre-FAQ, most recent FAQ, which hopefully they come back and realize they done mucked up. You could pass wounds off onto Blade Lords, and Blade Lords get their save.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here now is that you can either take a ward save or you can bounce off with a shrug. So if you, like, for example, death players can shrug wounds off from a necromancer to skellies. Cities of Sigmar have the adjutant who can bounce off to a honored retinue, and in this case as well. So you can't have both. You can't bounce off to your blade lords and then get a ward save on the blade lords. It's one or the other at the moment, as a time of recording.
Yeah. So I think the way that it should run is that the thing that you're trying to pass wounds off from only gets the one save. However, whatever you're passing to should also get the save, because the wording especially for Blade Lords is that if you are within 3 inches of this model, you have to make that roll. You do not get a choice. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm sitting on an objective and now I have to make that roll, I don't get a choice. I have to make that roll. So suddenly I'm taking models off the board when maybe you don't want to be. And you're like, I want my hero to die. So
yeah, that's exactly right, Paul. The bouncing. So if you're taking the bodyguard, doesn't allow you to. Yeah, that's correct. Like, so even like if I had a unit of Phoenix Guard, for example, and I was able to shrug the Phoenix Guard who have a 4-up ward save, I can't do it because I've already done the shrug. So it's one or the other at this time of recording. So it could be changed.
Hopefully.
So
hopefully, because it is 2 different abilities, and that's the way it should play. Because there's not very many things in the game that have that. It's the ward save stacking, which was good that changed.
So why the Blade Lords in? Why have you brought in Blade Lords compared to just putting in like Warden Sentinels or some other type of troop?
They're in there for their 2 wounds apiece. They have an innate 4+ spell shrug. So when someone comes in and go, I'm going to Arcane Bolt that unit, you're like, no, you're not. 4-up shrug. They have 2 separate attacks. One is the auto hit, wounds on from memory, it's wounds on a 2, and then wounds on a 3 and wounds on 2, and then it's -2 rend, 1 damage.
Did you say perfect strike or flurry of blows?
Perfect strike.
Yeah, it's a 2.
Yeah, wounds on 2 for rend 2 for 1 damage. So it's good for throwing into a hero, and you go, cool, I really need to kill this guy. Here's 5 wounds pretty much automatically, unless you have a really good save. They also have the Flurry of Blows, which is the 1 attack for every model within 2 inches, which is where you would look at it with Curse and go, okay, well, here's a unit of Mortec Guard. I have 5 of them into a unit of 10 Mortec who have Curse on them. I'm getting like 30 or 40 attacks into that unit. There's a lot of mortal wound output there. They're great as that utility piece, as well as being able to shrug the wounds off. So generally, because it's the Lumina, you can push a unit up off the line to suddenly support your Lore Seeker. So your Lore Seeker now has another 10 wounds. Plus, they don't have big 3-inch spears that you have to worry about breaking, and they're Swordmasters, and they look real pretty.
They remind you of the old high elf swordmasters, so they are pretty neat, and they're a different build. I think Hayden. I know you have been here from the start, and I know you were playing a lot with Sentinels and Wardens and Dawn Riders, and this is a different look at that in that type of build. So I do like seeing them on the table. I haven't seen them on the table yet, but I'd like to see more of them.
Yeah,
so I think they bring something different.
Yeah, a lot of the new builds do have Blade Lords in there for that extra wound capability. They are very good at what they do. That their role is to keep things alive, and they do it well at time of writing. With it being a Lumina as well, you do get that pre-game move. It is your movement characteristic that you get that pre-game move with. So your unit of Dawn Riders, or 2 unit of Dawn Riders in this list, can move 14 inches before the game starts.
Do you make that move?
Yes. So you make that move before the game starts and first turn. So if you know that you're taking first turn, suddenly you can have Dawn Riders halfway up the table. Cool. I know I'm going to take first. They've suddenly moved 28 from the back line.
And I guess in that case, you're going to want to probably go to a 1-drop or go as close to a 1-drop. If you're going to do that, you don't want to make a pre-game move, and you don't get to go who goes first.
Exactly, yeah. So it's good for knowing how many drops your opponent is and going, okay, well, are they going to give me first? Yes or no? see what their list is like. But again, it's a toolbox thing. So if they have a low model count army, you can then screen out with Dawn Riders halfway up the table so they can't get to the rest of your army. There's lots of things you can do with them.
I'm seeing a lot of discussion, by the way, about the Blade Lords and the bouncing of wounds. So we both agreed prior to jumping on this chat that we think this still needs requiring more FAQ. I think it needs further clarity. Right now, as it stands, I think you'll probably see people will rule it as one or the other. Because as a Cities player, I've mentioned it earlier, I could have an Anointed. I bounce the wound off to a Phoenix Guard. Am I allowed to do it? I think right now the answer is no, but I know people are seeking further clarity because we've already had a ward save debacle. So it's also depending on how your tournament organizer reads that rule. And a lot of them have just said one or the other.
Yeah.
I had an interesting question, and I haven't actually quite looked at this. I'm going to put you on the spot here, but that there's an Underworld's Warband. Have you looked into the Underworld's Warband and its value
I'm not a fan, personally. I don't think they bring enough to the table for what they do. I do think that, again, every unit has its place. But the fact that it is a Blade Lord, a Sentinel, a caster, it doesn't have that, I guess, one specific role that I know this unit can do this. And it's like it's like Stormcast. Good at lots of things, great at nothing. So, and you need to have units that go, okay, I can rely on this unit to do this. I know it can do this. Whereas the Lightbringers or Lightcallers are just like, they can kind of do a little bit of this and that, but they don't excel in anything. Like, I can bring a Cathalar or a Caligrave to do the same job as that. So, and you can just shoot Miari off and the unit doesn't go because they're not,
Why have you taken the Caligrave and why do you have two of them?
Because they're 115 points. Now. They're literally the cheapest hero in the book. And they're Scanari, so they make Blade Lord's battle line. They do exactly the same job as a Cathalar, minus the shifting of Aether Quartz in the battle shop. They're there literally to sit in my shrine and give out buffs. And also their once per game ability is pretty good as well, where they pick a point on the board, +1 to cast and ignore battle shock if you roll over the battle round. Sorry,
and I guess because you're not taking the Wardens and the Sentinels, you don't need to worry about the bravery stuff. So it's less of an impact for you, which is probably where the Caligrave comes in.
You're getting the free CP or free command ability every turn, from the shrine anyway. So it's like, cool, I can on a 2-up make a unit immune to battle shock, or I can literally just go sick. I'm going to use my free command ability to make that unit immune to battle shock. But like you can see in this list, it's units of 5. So battle shock really isn't an issue anyway. Like if you're taking big units, so if you have a unit of 30 Wardens or 30 Sentinels, definitely take Cathalar. But if you're not, and you're running MSU like this list, you don't really need it, and you're paying extra points for something that you're not super going to use very often.
Why did you go the Dawn Riders over the Wind Chargers? Because I imagine there's a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people building the Wind Chargers, and I think one, they're just a sweet sculpt. Two, I'm not seeing a lot of people take Dawn Riders, and when they did, it was just a cheap set of bodies that would flank or screen or cap objectives early.
Wind Riders, I find, don't have the same kind of damage output. They're not wizards, which is the big part of me taking Dawn Riders, is that, one, they're wizards, so they give me extra spells in this list. 2, they have Shining Company, so they're -1 to hit, and they absolutely just wreck chaff in combat. Whereas your Wind Riders, they're an extra 15 points on top of Dawn Riders. They're a 5-up save base. Sure, they get an extra 2 inches of movement and can move over terrain like they fly, but once they get caught, they're very dead. Like
Dawn 5-up armor save, 2 wounds.
2 wounds. Like they're hell on In Helon, they're great because they get extra shots. Cool, they're 3 shots,
threes and threes, Rend one for one.
Whereas you've got your Dawn Riders, they get into chaff. They're suddenly doing mortal wounds. They've got the flourish. They've got a spell. They're a lot more of a toolbox unit. And this list doesn't rely on shooting. It's not there for shooting. It's there to move around the board and be quick. Before sending this list to Anthony, I was really going back and forth on having, because I haven't played this list in a while. As you said, I've been playing Soulblight. I've been tossing up between having 3 units of Stone Guard and 1 unit of Dawn Riders, or 2 units of Stone Guard and 2 units of Dawn Riders. Landed on the extra unit of Dawn Riders because the big thing with this list is that it's not super high movement. Lumineth aren't a real super fast army unless you're taking the Fox build or the Helon build. That's where you get your speed from.
And with the smaller board size, I don't know if you need speed as much as you used to, because you don't have to go and chase objectives. I mean, there's arguments that speed is important. I'm not saying speed is so important. Just like people are saying that Rend 1 is useless. Well, no, Rend 1 has a use, but it's not as valuable as it used to be.
So the issue is that you need to catch stuff, and there's a lot of things out there that are faster. So for a combat army, the issue is, because this isn't a shooting army, this is a combat army. Things like Soulblight, where most things are movement 8 or more, unless you're taking zombies and Death Rattle. Like you look at Blood Knights, Direwolves, all of the vampire stuff, they're all movement 8 or higher. So you're moving 4 with your Stone Guard, you're moving 6 with your Blade Lords. Most things, you're not catching a lot of stuff, like for a combat army, and then they can dictate where you fight. Whereas with Lumineth, because they are so squishy compared to those other armies, we don't bring models back as easy. We don't have the durability. You want to be able to dictate where you fight and when you fight. So having that speed in the Dawn Riders allows you to do that and clear screens away, because bodies win objectives, objectives win games, Dawn Riders kill bodies.
Yeah. Compared to, I guess, what my argument was against the Wind Chargers, where they had some cool things, but I feel like they were better in 2E. Right now in 3E, or at least while we're playing in Gur, I don't see the upside on having Wind Chargers other than being sick models. Yeah, and other than that, or being in Helon. In Helon, they get that buff with the extra shooting, but that's about it. Otherwise, they fall apart. Yeah, I think generally, and I think, by the way, people are probably surprised, why no Sentinels? And I think the answer, and by the way, thank you, Poet, for the bits, much appreciated, as always.
Why no Sentinels? Because I'm the guy who doesn't want to run that crutch.
I think they're proven, right? And by the way, we're not here to say this is the one and only list to run. Take Hayden's list and go 5-0 at the biggest tournaments in the world. If you want to go down the Warden build and the Sentinel build, it's already there. Pick it up and go lift it. If you want to go Fox build, here's something a little bit different.
They've been the Fox build and the Warden Sentinel build have been talked to death. So I always like to bring something different to the table, and something that you guys can go and take away and play with and go, okay, yes, you can play Lumineth and you can have an engaging game with your opponent, rather than it being just, I'm
and if you want to take the Wardens and Sentinels, it's quite easy. You drop some of the Stone Guard, drop one of the units or 2 units of Dawn Riders, switch out the Blade Lords to be Wardens. For your battle line. So
exactly, there's definitely different uses for different units, and we've been going. It's pretty much been the main theme, is that this army is a toolbox army, the same way that Soulblight's a toolbox army. There's ways that you can play that aren't the one build, and you can still do well. You can still go 3-2-4-1 with a decent list that you engage with your opponent. You don't have to. If you want to go 5-0, you can take those strongest units in the book, the strongest army in the book, and go and do that. This list is more so for something that is a little bit different, that makes you think a little bit more.
Yeah, this was more cities as opposed to having a various tools that can respond to the game, and you're having a more engaging game. And it's probably one of the arguments that people would have as an opponent, where some people maybe feel bad being shot off the board by 30 Sentinels before the game started. Talk to me about the Stone Guard. Talk to me about why you would bring them into the list, because
for me, Stone Guard got better. I don't understand how the argument is that they're worse. They went up 20 points. Sure, there's still ignore when Rend 1. You now have all-out defense plus Aether Quartz. So you can use all-out defense every turn. So suddenly you have Stone Guard on a 3-up, ignoring Rend 1 every turn. Like, you used to have to use Aether Quartz for that. You can now Mystic Shield them plus, all-out defense, and you suddenly have a 2-up save, ignoring Rend 1 on Stone Guard. You have
not 2 up. You're still
but it's essentially
you can ignore
Rend
Rend
2. Yeah. So outside of your Metrica, you can ignore Rend 2.
Just in case someone thinks that you can actually go to 2 side.
So the stacking saves allow you to again ignore Rend 1 and then essentially ignore Rend 2 in that.
Yep.
So you can then use Aether Quartz, and then suddenly your Rend 2 is still +1 to your save, because you essentially have +3 to your save. So there's definitely ways of getting great saves on Stone Guard and not have them die. And the Diamond Pick Hammers themselves are fantastic for just mortal wound output. 2 attacks each, 6s do mortals instead of damage. So in the high save meta and like all these stacking saves, mortal wounds are invaluable. So any way that you can get mortal wounds are fantastic. They're a good, anvil unit to stick in front of your squishy stuff, because you don't really, if they die, cool, you're not really phased. If the stuff behind it dies that you're trying to protect, that's where you start having issues. So I've had Flesh Eater Court stuff hit my front line and just bounce off my Stone Guard. I've had lots of things just bounce off the Stone Guard. And then the good thing you can do as well is that at the end of the combat phase, they push stuff away. So you can go, okay, well, I'm currently within 3 inches of the stuff behind. Sweet, I'm going to push them back. So now they're no longer within 3 inches, and my stuff behind is no longer locked in combat. So they are still, in my opinion, the best screening unit in that book.
And what's really cool as well is there's a couple of battle tactics which are going to be based around, claiming an objective or claiming 2 objectives or more objectives in your opponent. So all of a sudden, you start denying an opponent. You then start adding some of the other additional weird stuff like, rally or redeploy or some of the cool new abilities. And you really do have that toolbox that allows you, and to Hades' point, there's a bit of babysitting, and you're right. Like it's not a point. These are not point and click lists. And I think some of the other builds are point and clicks. There is a bit of risk versus reward, but I think you're seeing a bit more interactivity in this style of listing. You might enjoy your games a little bit more. But look, take it what you want. Yeah, run some of the Stone Guard. Reconsider Dawn Riders. You don't see a lot of Dawn Riders in people's lists, and I think
Dawn Riders have always been good. They've never been great, but they've always been good. And the fact that they are still one of the quickest units in the game, and you can get them moving 28 inches. I think big unit of Dawn Riders in Helon is being slept on a little bit. A unit of 10 in Helon, where you just do the pods at each end, and then speed of Hish, cool, end of the combat phase, we're going to retreat 28 inches. So your front line that's just smacked their army is now back on your side of the board, and they have to come to you, and you've now got a screen of Dawn Riders in front.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like some different builds, and what was I going to? I was going to ask you something. I know what I was going to ask you. The question I ask a lot of Order players, and I think there's two things that people are always curious about. Yeah. One, little Ginger Ninja himself, Gotrek. Do you like? I've got
a Gotrek Eltharian list in my back pocket. I've played it a couple of times. It is very silly. I wrote it as a meme list when 3.0 dropped, thinking, oh, Gottrek's gonna just still be a meme, still gonna be like not great. And then I'm like, Gottrek's silly. Gottrek is very silly for his.
But do you like him in a Lumineth list? Do you like him or do you not like him?
He fills the role of a monster. So you have him in there if you don't have a Spirit of the Mountain, if you don't have a Teclis.
Not keyword monster. Not keyword monster.
Not keyword monster, but he fills the role that a monster does. So he's your damage dealer. He's your hammer. So you throw him out and he just annihilates everything he touches. The Gotrek Eltharian list, yeah, exactly. So that list is Gotrek, Eltharian, 3 units of Blade Lords, 3 units of Stone Guard, Law Seeker, Caligrave, a couple of other little heroes in there as well. But like that, it's literally it. Is that they can go on separate sides of the board, or they can run around together, and then they've got 2 threats that people have to deal with, because Eltharian kills a lot of stuff on his own, and Gotrek kills a lot of stuff. So if you come up against a Be'lakor, for example, it's like, okay, cool. Who are you going to go with? You're going to Be'lakor, Gotrek, and then Eltharian can just do everything he can on the other flank? Or do you Be'lakor, Eltharian, and then Gotrek just goes, haha, I'm an angry dwarf who's just going to run at you?
If you only took one, which one would you prefer, Gotrek or Eltharian?
It's hard. Yeah, it's one of those things where Gottrek's more survivable and he does more damage, but he's also nearly double the points. Whereas Eltharian is less points, less survivable, but also you can then take more stuff. And as we've been saying, Lumineth are light on bodies. Objectives win games. You need to make sure that you can do both. So it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't, depending on who you pick. You have to adjust your list up outside of it.
I could see that work really well against some of this like monster meta, right? These hero monsters, right? You're seeing those 2 threat pieces, and you're seeing people right now, like I think people are starting to learn how to handle Gotrek, where you just try to avoid him out of combat. You either redeploy and stay away and make those charges harder, or you have some movement shenanigans. You find ways to move, halve his move and charges, or even apply rules where Dark Master, for example, and stop him from moving altogether. But having some threats, at least having one on each side or both together, you could really pull down that Archaon, that Nagash, that Morathi. Oh, Morathi is obviously 3 wounds apiece, but you've got the Sentinels to
And like I was saying with the changes to the wording, if you shoot little Morathi or you damage little Morathi, big Morathi doesn't get a shrug against it, because it transfers off.
Yeah, so there's no fanatical faith.
No, so you don't get your shrug against it, and then on either one, you just do the damage. Little Morathi doesn't get a shrug, and it's just yeah.
The other question I've got is the Mega Gargants. Is there a place for Bundo Whalebiter, a 500-point lug in this force?
Gotrek fills the role better than Bundo. Less points. You don't lose a command. He's less points. You don't lose a command point at the start of turn 1. There's better options within Lumineth, I think. And like the Leviton, like was being brought up, if Bundo counted as more than 5 models, 100%.
Yeah.
But the fact that he only counts as 5, and you're so light on bodies overall, there's better things in terms of what you can do. So
it is a point. It is a big point sink, but you do get monstrous rampage. You do get a heroic action.
You take Cow.
You could
take Cow. Take Cow. More survivable than Bundo.
Is it for 35 wounds versus the Spirit of the Mountain?
No, sorry, Avelinor. You can take Avelinor. Who's then got a 3-up save, an 18-inch -1 to hit bubble around. 12-inch -1 hit bubble around him to everything. Like he's got Aether Quartz. He can go to a 2-up save, ignoring Rend 1. Like, and he gets the protection of Hish as well. So
I know we talked about Levidons as a good monster option as an ally, because your only ally right now is
Deepkin.
Deepkin.
Which doesn't matter.
Unless, yeah, it's a weird one. It's a weird one.
Let's commit genocide, yet you're still our ally.
It's like Father's Day every time you rock up to a tournament. Like, we just, outside of the Levidon, which is a monster, and I know in the past you've talked about the Shark, you've talked about the Alapex that supports or runs around with your Dawn Riders.
Yeah.
Is there anything that also might be worth it in Deepkin?
Soul Scryer, which we've already talked about.
Yeah.
For Curse, I was torn on the Eidolon because now you still got the bravery debuff build, which is still fantastic, but especially now that you can't arcane. Bloody what's it called? Inspiring Presence, everything anymore. You can only Inspiring Presence one unit, so you just go cool. Board wide -2 to bravery. I'm going to pick these 3 units to have another -1 to bravery, and then you just keep stacking bravery debuffs. Kill one model in the unit, and then half the unit runs away. Like, there's still ways of doing it. Just with the amount of death around at the moment,
there's a lot of chaos and a lot of death.
Chaos isn't so bad because it's bravery 10, and you can get like -3 or 4 to their bravery. Like, there's still ways of doing it that way. I think the issue more so is death with Nagash and board wide ignore battle shock. You go with what is it? What's it called? OBR, who would never take battle shock anyway. You hit these guys and it's like, cool, they don't care. Like, you come up against Gargants and you're like, I don't have the damage to kill one, and they don't take battle shock. And Gargants,
but most of the time people are running the megas. They're not running big blocks of man crushers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, cool, I can get them to -4 to bravery, and if I've got a Cathalar, I can do that. But if I don't have a Cathalar, then oh god, I'm in deep doo-doo, because you still need to roll over their bravery, and their bravery 9 base is a mega.
Who, megas?
Yeah.
7 or 8. They're not that good.
Okay. So you still, if you're -3 to their bravery, you still need to roll over a 5 or 4 or 5, but which is great. But you still got 3 others to deal with, or 2 others to deal with, and some man crushers. You're only stopping one of their units, and then you have to deal with the rest. So.
And what's cool, if you're someone like me who also owns cities, you can combine the force, and they brought out Settlers Gain, which is a combo cities Lumineth build, which I really like. I think this is not the Settlers Gain show, but I do be able to cherry pick some of the best of Lumineth and
Teclis and Settlers.
Oh.
Teclis and Settlers. Yeah, because it's cool. I'm in Settlers. I still know all the Lumineth spells.
Yeah, yeah. And you can be protected by Phoenix Guard and have Phoenixes and have the Iron Drakes and all that stuff. But
all the other fun stuff that you get in Settlers, but that's another time.
It is a different show. I think overall, I really like Lumineth. It's nice to see them on the table, as always. Please don't shoot me with your mortal wounds. I think you've got some good options in there. Do you want to run a traditional 2nd edition build? Yes, you can. Yeah. Do you want to go down something different? Yeah. You've still got more. That's probably another good comment. Like Morsar Guard, that also could possibly a good
Coherency is an issue with Morsar now.
Well, you could go 3 defensive, the defensive one, the Ishlayan,
Ishlayan have more play in 3rd ed. Ishlayan are so good, so good. But again, Deepkin show, that's another one. But
no, but it's a good ally choice. It's a good ally choice. But if you're going to go into allies, the problem is when you go into Morsar, you take a unit of 6, coherency starts becoming an issue, and you're relying on the shock.
They're super high in points, and you're not gonna sink all these points into a unit that dies easily, doesn't get any benefit from your army's allegiance abilities. But the Ishlayan are a real good anvil because of the charging on a 3-up save. They get the Ishlayan versus Dawn Riders. Dawn Riders for me still, because they're wizards.
and they're natural inside your army.
The natural side of the army. They don't have any of the issues. If you take them as an anvil. That's the only reason I'd take them, because they don't do very much damage output, but they do have a whole bunch of good saves. If you've got Teclis in the list, it's even better, because it's protection of Teclis and protection of Hish is friendly models. It's not friendly to Lumineth models. So Gotrek, Ishleyan, Levidon all get the protection of the 5-up shrug.
Final question, and then we'll kind of bring it home.
Yep.
Is I fell in love with the Bannerman, the Banner Blade. He was a sweet model. Is there a reason to bring it in 3E? Because obviously 1 totems will give us an 18-inch kind of range for our command points. I'm looking at the War Scroll now.
I think he works well in an Illithur build with Wardens and Sentinels. You take him in place of, like, I have Caligraves in my list. You drop a Caligrave and put him instead, and you sit him inside of your shrine, because then you're measuring from the outside of a shrine for the bubble, and you're giving your benefits that way to that build. He's the martial character.
He doesn't have a command ability to trigger from the other than obviously generic ones
and the ones from the temples. It's the one from the temples that you want to use.
Of course. Yeah. I was looking at the War Scroll going, there's no command ability. Why would you
it's
even
the ones from
bother?
the temples. So it's the one from the Great Nations that you want to use it for. So it's that's where it generally is good. So
all right. Final question, and then I'm going to have breakfast and walk the dog, and it's a nice way to end the show. Hades asked, do you have any tips on the way you place the shrine?
Generally, I'll look at where the objectives are or potentially are coming down, and then I'll sit 3 inches back from the front line, or so just over 3 inches back from the front line, for exactly that reason.
Yeah, and the reason is Monstrous Rampage, because in 2nd edition, it was only the Mega Gargants, specifically the Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, who could destroy. Oh yeah, and Sevireth, but I mean, at the time you didn't see a lot of mirror match Sevireth, but I mean, you kind of do now. But the Gatebreaker was destroying faction terrain. Now every monster has the ability to destroy faction terrain, to turn it off. So, so you obviously want to play aggressive with it to make the most of the abilities, but at the same time, you don't want to be too aggressive that a monster gets into the backfield, monster's able to get close to it, and then use one of the Monstrous Rampages.
Like we were saying, though, as well, a 24-inch bubble on the new table is very big. And with the changes to the shrine, which is now no longer 12 inches turn 1, and then when you have a Guardian in it, it's from turn 2 onwards, it's 24 inches. It's now just always 24 inches. So you can sit it at the back and still have the bubble on their side of the table.
It's a massive bubble. It's massive. It's
absolutely bananas, but that's just me. So it is the best piece of faction terrain in the game, bar none. Bar none. Free command ability every turn. Reroll a cast, unbind, and dispel every turn. If it was every battle round, but it's literally every turn.
It's good. It's definitely good. I'm not going to disagree with you.
For free, it's very good.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Hayden. By the way, this has been awesome because, and again, one of the reasons I wanted Hayden back, one, you all, I got a lot of people asking me when we're going to get Hayden back. So appreciate you all wanted to see Hayden. 2, I really appreciated seeing a different way. Like, I haven't seen a lot of Wind Mages. I haven't seen a lot of Caligraves. I haven't seen a lot of Stone Guard and Blade Lords. And this whole show has always been about, here's some ideas. Take what you want. If you like something else, if you love your Banner Blade Lord, Banner Dude, if you love your Fox build, if you love, I don't know, you love Kangaroos, the Wind Chargers, cool. Take some of these concepts and ideas and then build around it. Maybe add X, or think about bringing a Spirit of the Mountain where you haven't been in the past. It's all about ideas.
Yeah, that's it, guys. And just remember, it is a toolbox book. You can take all of these things and go have fun with it. It's not a book where you have to take the one build to be competitive. You can go 3-2 with a lot of the things in this book if you're looking to be a guy at a tournament who's there to have fun. You can still go 3-2 with a fun list. You don't have to go, I'm going to take a fun list and then expect to lose every game. It's still a very strong book. You can go 5-0. You can go 3-2. If you really want to go 0-5, you can go 0-5. But, it's one of those books where it can do everything. And that's why it's still up the top of the tier lists, because it has all those tools.
It's got all the tools. Yeah, it's good. It's good. But as always, let me know in the comments section, how are you building your Lumineth? Lots of interesting ways, whether it's through the Great Nations, whether it's through particular units. If you disagree with us around wind charges and you think wind charges are good and you have a reason to use wind charges, or if you think there's some secret list tech with, I know in the past you talked about the Lord Regent and things like that. Like if there are things that you are using that we haven't talked about, let us know.
Guys. So definitely, if you guys have any questions, hit me up, let me know. And
run the beaver of secrets. Run the beaver of secrets. And if you want to talk list tech, Discord, you know where it's at. My Discord link is below. Go join it. We got some good Lumineth players in there. Also some whingers, but we mostly have good Lumineth players as well. And if you want to chat to Hayden, your Twitter handle is either down here or about to be added here, and you can chat more to Hayden.
Yeah, I am all over the place, guys. So
perfect. All right, well, I'm going to make breakfast and then go walk the dog. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Hayden, for chatting and sharing some awesome insights. Let me know what you think below. Comment stuff, all that YouTubey things. All right, I'm going to go. Peace out.
See you guys.
Thanks for sticking around until the end. I hope you found that video interesting and you walked away with a few new ideas. If you did, I would appreciate it if you hit like on the video, as well as left me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The conversation will continue over on Discord, so links down below in the episode description if you want to join the Discord and continue the Age of Sigmar conversation. I want to give a massive shout out as well to these absolute bloody legends, these champions who have continued to support me through Patreon or YouTube members. That is going directly into supporting the maintenance and the growth of this channel. So thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. And until next time, roll more sixes.